Hello. It looks like we lost live feed on one side, so I'm just going to wait for people to jump in back here. But what we were talking about was the fact that I'm going to try to fix this. Here we go. What we're talking about is the fact that we are there are people who love to talk about black people who are more racist than white people. And again, the definition of racism is the use of bias to restrict access to power or resources, right? And so if you don't have power or you don't have resources, you can't be racist. It's as simple as that. You can be biased, and I will admit that everybody has bias. There's bias in everybody, right? So there is it is absolutely possible for you to be biased. But if you do not have access to resources and power, then you can't be racist. So and it's not like I was saying, it's not like, in our own neighborhoods where we say it was like, oh, well, we won't allow you to buy property here because you're not black, right? It's quite the opposite, right? It's because, people walk in and buy property in black neighborhoods. We don't use our power, if we even have it, to restrict people from buying it. And that's how neighborhood get gentrified, right? That's how we end up having gentrified neighborhoods. And so just like, yes, Facebook is trying to shut me down, Anthony. And so it's like, it's annoying to hear that, but it is also just really disturbing that the Republicans are rolling out these people who have zero information and are just like spouting rhetoric over and over and over again, and it is not constructive to the country, and not constructive to our way of being. And so somebody posted, I saw somewhere, that the Republicans are not rolling out all of these people of color in order to attract people of color. They're rolling them out so that when it makes it comfortable for white people to ascribe to the racist views that are being spouted, right? So it's an excuse. It's like, well, we're not racist. Look at all these black people that we have at our RNC. Look at all these Latino people we have at our RNC and all the rest of that stuff. It was like, this is, I hate election season. Every 4 years, my head just like kind of explodes. I hate it. I hate it because it is, it's not just the Republicans, all right? Both parties really take this opportunity to roll out some rhetoric that is really problematic on both sides of the fence, right? And so, but when you see the fear-mongering that is coming out of the Republican Party, it is really disturbing because now, whereas we might have gotten to a point where we're coming a little bit together and recognizing that we're all Americans, and just like understanding how this love for one another and recognizing Black Lives Matter and all the rest of the stuff. But now, like, they're stoking the fires again, right? So, and it's the older generation, because the younger generations, for the most part, are like, look, like, you're a good person, I'm a good person, we can do this, right? But like, they're stoking the fires, and it is very reminiscent of the Nixon era, where the war on crime and talking about if you allow them, and one of the Republicans said that if you allow Biden to get into power, they're going to allow MS-13 to move in next door to you. What? Right? And it's like, and then they say it's like, well, they're gonna take away your guns. They're gonna let MS-13 move in next door to you, and it's going to be the Wild Wild West, and they're gonna kill all the white people. They didn't say the last part. I was adding a little bit of an ad lib. But you get what they're trying to do. And it's really, really disturbing, because those are the words that then mobilize people like Rittenhouse to cross state lines and use a rifle to go hunt people in protest. These are not separate things. These are very much connected. These are very, very, very much connected. And we have to be careful and we have to be vigilant because if we allow that kind of rhetoric and that kind of politics to re-enter the White House in November, you will see a very, very different country in 4 years, if there is a country to talk about. Because there is a very disturbing specter of having this current president be a lame duck president for the next 4 years. Game over. I'm just saying, the country as you know it, even those people who really support some of the ideals of the Republican Party, this won't be what you think it's going to be. This won't be the kind of country where you think it's going to go. I was like, all right, well, it'll be small government and constructive spending and yada yada yada. That's not what you're going to get, because what he is setting up is a place where the rich get richer and the poor fight each other for the scraps that the rich have left. That's what is being set up. And as a lame duck president with no accountability for re-election, that's a bad look. A really, really, really bad look. So anyway, so that's the whole Republican National Convention thing. It's supposed to end tonight. I can only imagine the absolute bizarre rhetoric that's going to come out of the current seated president tonight. So it's like, suggestion is to round up all of us and just around the corner. The suggestion to round all of us up is just, yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Like, at a certain point in time, like, I was like, all right, well, let's just get all these people and do something to them or get them out of the way. And so my only hope is that at a certain point in time that all people of all working class people, all people who are striving in this country to make it better and make their lives better, all recognize that regardless of color and regardless of heritage, they're in this together against the greedy people who are stealing everything right under our noses and just making and telling us that it's all right because I've got 99 apples and I need you all over there to go fight over that one apple because, that's the only apple that's left, right? So anyway, I've talked about that before. We can get back to that later. All right, I want to take a hard left because I need to. So as you know, I love my TV and I enjoy good shows and stuff like that. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a show that we are watching. And I say we because there's a group of at least 100 of us who are vigilantly watching this and trying to analyze it. It's called Lovecraft Country. And it's on HBO. So I know that that is classist by just suggesting a show that you have to have a subscription in order to see, but I get it. But this is quality TV so far. We're 2 episodes in, and it's really looking at all of the different ways that the Jim Crow era really attacked black folk and formerly enslaved people, and that's juxtaposed with a whole bunch of fantasy and monsters, and I know after I just said that, I was like, well, why would I want to watch a show like that? But watch it. Oh my God, just watch it. It's really great writing, and we're enjoying it. And so there is so much to dissect when watching Lovecraft Country. But one of the things that I guess is the really interesting thing is that we talk about a show that is in the Jim Crow South, and or not even the South because they're going up to Boston. So that is in the Jim Crow era and is set up with monsters, and the really scary people are not the monsters. The really scary people are the racists from the Jim Crow era. The other scary part about it is that there are huge parallels to what is happening today, right? So I did a podcast with my friend Trevor McNeil, and his podcast is called the For Real podcast, and you can get that anywhere you get podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, any of those places, you can pick it up. And episode 10, they talked about Lovecraft, and they brought me on as a guest. And we talked about one of the things that happens in Lovecraft Country is sundown towns. And a sundown town is a place in the in the Jim Crow South, where after sundown, and there were signs to let you know that this is true, right? After sundown, you were, as a person of color, not allowed to be in that town after sundown. And it was legal for people to either run you out of town or to kill you for being in the wrong part of town or wrong part of the county after sundown. And so I talked a little bit about the fact that those sundown towns, whereas the signs no longer exist, they still do. They're still around. We just got back from vacation, as many of you know, like for my birthday, and like we were down in South Jersey. And those of you from Jersey know that South Jersey and North Jersey are two very, very different Jerseys, and not to mention Central Jersey, which does not exist. So I'm down in South Jersey, and when I went riding my bike, and so I rode my bike, and I passed this house that had a that had a flagpole, and there were three things on the flagpole. It was the American flag, a Trump banner, and an All Lives Matter banner, right? First of all, the fact that somebody created an All Lives Matter banner is just one step too far, just really going too far, and just like completely misses the point. But those three banners together all just gave me the signals like, yeah, I need to get out of here. And I needed to not be in that neighborhood. And I was biking by myself, and I was like, this is the equivalent of a sundown town. This is the equivalent of a sign that says, if you are black, and you know, and they didn't use such nice terms back then, but if you are a person of color, you need to get out of here before the sun goes down. And those things still exist. And we talk about the South all the time, like Mississippi and Arkansas and all the rest of these different places. And I'm talking about Jersey. I'm talking about across the river, across the Hudson from New York City, or down the state from Newark, right? The same state that has Newark and Elizabeth and all of these different places that you don't expect to see those things. Here's the interesting thing about Cape May. That Cape May Point is that there is a Harriet Tubman Museum in Cape May, across the street from a historical house that was founded by and maintained by formerly enslaved people in Cape May, in the middle of a place where there is an All Lives banner hanging below a Trump banner, hanging below an American flag. So I say all of this to say that, you know, we're watching Lovecraft Country and seeing all of these things and the specter of all these things, and you're like, oh my God, it must have been really horrible to live during those times, or really scary to live during those times. It's scary to live during these times, right? When you have Jeff Blake being shot in the back 7 times by just trying to get into his car, which had his 3 children in the back seat, right? And so so John says, and it's not like that in Long Island and upstate. Yeah, there are places in Long Island and places in upstate that are just exactly the same way, right? We went vacation in upstate, close to Cooperstown, and I had that exact same feeling that I should not be riding my bike in this neighborhood, right? There's a case of a woman who was right out there in Valley Stream, whose neighbors threw dog feces at her house, and and did all kinds of really aggressive and racist things to her to get her to move because she was a black woman in a white neighborhood, and that's in Valley Stream. That's not even all the way out in Long Island. That's right there in Valley Stream. And so yes, these things. This is my point. There seems to be this whole idea. It's like, okay, we've progressed as a nation, and these things no longer happen. Or if they're happening in a ass backwards part of the country. They're not. They're happening in what we consider to be progressive places in our country, in our nation, in our neighborhoods, and we need to be able to fight against that. We need to be able to stand up when we see it. Luckily, the woman in Long Island, the family that was abusing her, all were able to they were able to bring charges against them, and they were all arrested, right? But like, for how many other families are being put upon, how many other families are being abused in the same fashion, but we're just not hearing about it. So again, so Lovecraft, we watched that, and I want to caution people, right, when you see that, when you look at a show like Lovecraft, and you see where the beginnings of some of these racist practices have come from, or how they got their formation, to not be beguiled into thinking that they don't exist now. And that's the really scary part about this country. So, and we see it playing out in Kenosha, where people are walking around with rifles. A militia leaves Illinois, comes to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and with the intention of shooting Americans who are standing up for their civil rights. Right? So, like, it all comes full circle. So, we started talking about Kenosha, and we'll talk about, and now we're talking about Lovecraft, and it all feels like it's happening at the same time. So that's where I'm at. Last two things. I promised I would talk about, let me get this down here. I promised I would talk about what I'm reading right now, like in terms of comic books. I finally got all 10 of this series. So this is the Surrey series. So this is Black Panther. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Surrey is Black Panther's sister. She at one point in time was the Black Panther, and this is her own series. There are 10 of them, so I finally got all 10. I was waiting to get all 10 to read it all together, so this is what I'm reading this week. I am... And the last thing that I want to bring up, and I've been seeing the ads for this because apparently it's coming back for another season, and I do not understand the show, and we don't have to talk about it here, but y'all can we can talk about it next week. But I just wanted to leave out about the show Lucifer. Anybody watching this show? Because Lucifer is one of those shows that keeps on getting renewed every year, and the question is like, well, who's watching it in order for it to get renewed every single year? But apparently a lot of people, right? Because it's a very popular show. Here's my question. What's the premise of this show? So the devil comes to Earth and is hanging out, and every now and again he flaps out his big giant angel wings, and there are angels who are fighting against him, but people are interacting with him just like it's normal. I don't understand the premise of this show. I don't get it. And apparently he has a twin brother now in this season. And this season there's the twin brother who also has wings. And then there's Lucifer, who's supposed to be back in hell. And then there are other angels. And what's happening on this show? How is this premise... How is this premise put forward? Because apparently he has a love interest. Lucifer has a love interest, right? Somebody looks at this dude and says, "Oh, you're the king. You're the king of hell. You're the dark angel, but you're kind of cute though. Let me give you up some." What's happening in this show? I don't watch the show. I don't watch the show. I only have but so much bandwidth, right? But like, I don't understand what's happening in this show. How much suspension of disbelief do people have to have in order to watch a show where you actually believe that Lucifer is on Earth and is helping the police? Because it looks like he's helping the police or fighting. What's happening? Somebody talk to me about this show. Somebody pitched this in a room, and the writers in the room went, "Yeah, I could run with this. We could do a show about this." So that's my WTF moment for the for this last couple of weeks, because I refuse to watch it because, again, I don't have the bandwidth from it. But like somebody who does watch it, please tell me what's going on. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up. This has been the Greenhouse Effect. It is Thursday, and we're coming up onto the end of the show. And I hope you had a good time. I hope you stay safe out there, and love one another. Go out and find somebody to be kind to, and especially be kind to somebody who doesn't look like you. Right. So, love you all. Stay safe. I will see you next week.